Hi all, so Sob's back, and this week we're trying out a relevant deck just for a change of pace. So this is a new deck that debuted in Ignition Assault, and that's the new TCG exclusive archetype Plunder Patrols. They've kind of finally become playable from the new stuff from Eternity Code. They're kind of a control / aggro deck, which sounds counterintuitive, but when you start playing with them you kind of see that the first sort of turn is kind of control-y, and then you start going on the aggro after that point. They've kind of got a unique summoning mechanic, which is they can summon their extra deck monsters based on the attributes of what your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. So let's jump right into it and see how far these pirates can sail. So as standard deck profile dictates, it's monsters first. So it's 3 Whitebeard, the Plunder Patrol Helm. So he's the best Plunder Patrol monster. When he's on the field and it's your opponent's turn, you can use him to move him to the spell and trap card zone to summon a Plunder Patrol monster with the same attribute as a monster that's in your opponent's graveyard or on their field. So that he has in common with a couple of the other Plunder Patrol monsters. The main benefit that this guy's got over a lot of the other monsters is that he special summons when he's sent to the graveyard from the monster zone or from the hand. So he's great at extending because a lot of our cards require a discard. He does lock you into Plunder Patrols when you use that second effect, which can be a little bit of a hindrance in when going to your kind of generic stuff, but he's still definitely a 3 of. From there we've got 3 Redbeard, the Plunder Patrol Matey, who's got the same effect as Whitebeard and can special summon on your opponent's turn again. His secondary effect is a little bit lacking compared to Whitebeard in terms of when he's sent to the graveyard from the hand or from the monster zone, he can equip himself to a Plunder Patrol monster on your side of the field. It's not bad, but it's definitely not nearly as powerful or as an extension as Whitebeard is. He'd have been a lot better if it was like a special summon from graveyard, for example, or something like that, just to kind of keep your ball rolling. And there we've got new stuff from Eternity Code. So this is Bluebeard, the Plunder Patrol Shipwright. So he's a borer, so he can special summon himself when you control another Plunder Patrol monster, which is fine. It's good for getting monsters on board, and you kind of need those monsters on board. He also has a secondary effect when he's sent from the hand or monster zone, where you can discard and draw 1 card, which again is fine. You could probably run him at 2, but I think that the kind of getting the multiple monsters on board is relevant in this deck. From there we've got two more of the new ones, which is 2 Golden Hair. This is an excellent card, and it seems weird that I'm running Bluebeard at 3 and Golden Hair at 2 when I actually think that Golden Hair is the better of the cards. So Golden Hair can special summon itself from the hand by sending another Plunder Patrol monster from your field or hand, and it can also special summon itself from the graveyard by discarding a card, and it doesn't get banished. It does lock you into Plunder Patrols when you do that, but the thing is you don't really need multiple, and getting out of the gate Plunder Patrols can kind of have a resource problem. Well, it's not really a problem, but it's more you need quite a lot of resources to make your first turn play, and you can plot Golden Hair out with a lot of various different things. So backing that up, we're running a different TCG exclusive archetype, and we're running the dangers. So we're running the 3 good ones, obviously. So Nessie, Jackalope, and Tsuchinoko, and all 3 of those basically guarantee you something. The Plunder Patrol stuff is actually really good for having darks in graveyard. You need different attributes, and you need to be able to put the different attributes in your graveyard so you're not reliant on your opponent to do so with the new stuff. From there we're running 2 more dangers, so we're in Chupacabra and Mothmam, and these are the bad dangers. So if they get hit, then you don't really necessarily always draw, but if we've got multiples, always go for the ones that are good first, so that way you can kind of, if you've got the chance, use the good ones first, obviously. And then 3 hand traps, which again could be anything, but I think Effect Veiler is actually really good in this scenario because it puts a light in graveyard. So with all of the discarding and stuff like that, it can be beneficial to actually discard the effect veiler to allow you to progress further into different extra deck monsters. Alright, so jumping into the spells, we've got 3 of the field spell, which really makes the deck tick, is Shipyarrrd. So this is a discard to search for any Plunder Patrol card, which is incredible. Obviously a lot of things are just monsters, but this is anything, and the discard is really good for like Whitebeard or your dangers, or just putting an attribute in the graveyard. It also has a couple of other secondary effects. So each Plunder Patrol monster gains 500 of each spell and trap card in your spell and trap card zone. So it's basically a mage power on crack. It gets out of control really quickly. Like once you get to like you kind of like second or third turn, you've got huge monsters. Even your normal summon monsters that become massive. It can also kind of recur itself by bouncing a spell or trap plunder monster in the spell or trap card zone. So from there we've got 3 of the new card, which is Shipshape, Shipping, which I'm only going to say once because I'm definitely going to mess that up. So you can fusion a fiend type monster using monster you control. You can so that's pretty good going first because it means it gives you access to your fusion monster, which is one of the better, or in fact probably the best ship that you can go to. You can also banish it from your graveyard to equip a Plunder Patrol monster or Emblem of the Plunder Patrol from your deck. So that allows you to get access to cards. Again, you're kind of searching, for resources and stuff like that. So it makes for a good discard outlet. From there, you got 3 Emblem of the Plunder Patrol. So Emblem's really good going first. It gets less interesting after that, but basically what it does is it gives you control over what you can get out from the graveyard. So rather than just being your opponent's monsters in the graveyard and on the field, it allows you to use your monster's attributes in the graveyard. So stuff like the discard of effect veiler, etc. means that you can go to your light monsters with Emblem of Plunder Patrol. So you equip it to a monster, you then send it to the graveyard to equip that monster to an extra deck monster. So that's the Plunder Patrol cards. From there we're running 3 Pot of Desires. As I've said, they're kind of a resource heavy, especially going first, and we need the extra cards. It can hurt a little bit when you draw multiple desires and you can run out of resources, but the trade-off is really good, and we've got discard outlets to get rid of those extra desires should we need. We've got 3 Called by the Graves. They're not too bad in terms of getting messed up by hand traps, but Ash Blossom stops every single one of your extra deck monsters, so your disruption gets disrupted by Ash Blossom, which is a super common hand trap. So then we've got couple of other extenders, so Salvage, and I have toyed around with taking this out, running Foolish Burial Goods instead, but I've kind of settled on this for now. So Salvage adds back every single war monster that you've got really, and again, each of your extra deck monsters requires a discard outlet, so the Salvage being a +1 can really help in that. And then from there we've got a couple of one-offs, so we're running the Upstart Goblin as a 39 card deck, and the Terraforming, because although you're not absolutely dependent on the field spell, the deck performs much better when you see the field spell. And finally for the trap section, which is always the longest section of these deck profiles, 2 Plunder Patrol Booty. So traps are always a little bit hit and miss, but these guys are searchable. So what this is you can declare one attribute, target face-up monster your opponent controls, it becomes that attribute, which gives you access to your varying extra deck monsters. It can also be a Call by the Grave or a Shuffle back into the deck. You probably don't really use the Shuffle back into the deck very often. You might use it for if you'd run out of ships in your extra deck. And this thing stays on the field as long as you control the Plunder Patrol monster. So, you can carry on kind of special summoning back and manipulating your opponent's monsters, which is really good. It's not crucial, so you could definitely cut it, but I'm continuing to run it for now. Okay, so let's set sail into the extra deck. So we've got 3 of the new card from Eternity Code, which is Lys. It's a Plunder Patrollship Lys. So this is light, which is great because it's easy to summon out. A lot of decks are obviously using the light as an attribute. You can discard to negate a monster effect, which again, really good disruption. And if it's equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, you can add a Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. And again, that's kind of like a card search is obviously excellent. You can also special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from your spell and trap card zone or your hand to the field. And that's again a quick effect. And that comes up more often than you kind of expect, and Lys can just, you know, kind of put you in a loop of just accruing resource, which is obviously great. So that's the fusions. From there we've got 2 Plunder Patrollship Brann. So Brann is one from the older set, that's Ignition Assault. So this is all Plunder Patrol monsters going 500, which is really good again for kind of that in combination with your field spell, just making all of your monsters huge. And you can also discard Plunder Patrol card, target one spell and trap card you have Plunder Patrols, and banish it, which is becoming more and more relevant with the kind of graveyard spell and trap card effects. And you can add 1 Plunder Patrol monster from your deck to your hand when you do that, and it's a quick effect if you have the equipped, whereas with Lys you can always activate its effect as a quick effect, but you only get the search if you're equipped, so it's slightly different. We're running a couple of other synchros because they're generic and decent. So Adamatia, Risen Dragite, so we don't have a spell or trap negator at the moment, so that could be considered, I suppose, a hole, a gap. And Dragite's a 3000 beta and a spell or trap negator because we'll definitely have waters in the graveyard, which is really good. We're also running White Aura Whale, which I think is probably an underrated card, maybe a bit of a niche pick, but it's a dark hole when you synchro summon it, which doesn't come up that often, but when it does, is really powerful. It can also special summon itself back by banishing a water monster from the graveyard when it's destroyed by a battle or an opponent's card effect. So again, not crucial, and I think the extra deck is actually fairly loose in terms of you've got the flexibility to run techs of your choice really. So onto the XYZs, running Moerk at 2. So like Brann, he discards to banish, but he banishes a monster, and again, straight banish is really good. It does target like Brann, but it's still really good at removal. Non-destruction removal is obviously really good. He adds a spell or trap card, and like Brann, he needs to be equipped with a Plunder Patrol card in order for the for that effect to be quick. So from there, we're running a couple of other XYZs. So we're running Abyss Dweller, and again, that could be anything really of your choice. Number 60 Dagaras if you want to kind of go for the extension. We've got quite a few discard outlets, so that kind of works. But Abyss Dwellers, locks out your opponent's graveyard. It's also water because our waters, our Plunder Patrols are waters, so that means that we're going to boost by 500. Just a really solid generic XYZ. And then we're running Bahamut Shark and Toadally Awesome to go with that. Again, you could probably cut all 3 of these and replace them with whatever you wanted, or run just more plunders. I have thought about the ratios of the plunders and changed it around a little bit, but I think Bahamut Shark's really good going first. It's quite rare that you'll end up going to these as well as your standard Plunder Patrol plays, especially when a few of the Plunder Patrols lock you out of other generic things. But I think it's worth the add and the flexibility that it gives you. So the links, we're running 2 Blackbeards. So Blackbeard's quite similar to the Redbeard and the Whitebeard in that it can summon from the extra deck, but the benefit of Blackbeard is that you can do it on your own turn, so you can kind of start setting up on your own turn, ready for your opponent's plays. He also draws a card when he does that, and he can do it to any monster as well. So you can, if you've got a rogue danger, you can use Blackbeard and still get out something relevant. And from there, I thought I was being really clever with this, is Salamangreat Almiraj, because I hadn't really seen this in other deck profiles, and then I saw one by MBT, and he was playing it, which I think is super relevant. So apart from Whitebeard, every single one of our Plunder Patrols is less than 1000 attack, or 1000 or less attack. So Almiraj becomes a way of getting it out. It can trigger some of the effects, so Bluebeard or, you know, Golden Hair. You could summon Golden Hair. Golden Hair's then engraved, so you can discard a card, somebody Almiraj, get to Blackbeard. It also puts a fire in the graveyard, so I think Brann is the hardest one to get to, really, just because fire is not that common. With the Almiraj and the Emblem, it means you've got access to spell and trap banishment should you need it. So on to the conclusion. There's no combo really, because the lines just aren't the same every time. You know, you'll be doing something different in every duel, which is really nice because it means it, you know, keeps it fresh. I found this deck quite difficult to land a build. You know, you can go down your danger element, or, you know, focus really heavily on the water element of the deck, or, you know, go Foolish Burial Goods and have a few cards that benefit off being sent to the graveyard. But I think, and again, because it's control and aggro, it's quite different to most decks. It can definitely have a resource issue in the first turn. You know, you can sometimes just run out of cards and then not have enough to have the discard for you to disrupt your opponent. And I think the most important turn is probably your opponent's first turn. Once you've turned that corner, you really start ramping up the attack points and the resources that you've got, and I think at that point you've sailed away with the game, basically. Also, all that said, it's a very interesting deck. You know, I'd highly recommend it if you've got the chance to pick up the cards. So yeah, what's not to love? It's pirates and goblins. So what's your deck profiles for Plunder Patrols? I'd be interested to see. So with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.